right, let's dig into one of the absolute biggest hurdles for any AI product manager: finding that real, genuine product market fit. We're going to break down the practical strategies that honestly can make or break your entire product.
And let's be real, finding that perfect sweet spot is incredibly tough. I mean, if you've ever felt like you're building this amazing piece of technology, but it's just not quite landing with the market, then this is for you. We're going to get into the approach that actually works.
Okay, so let's start here. Why is building a successful AI product so uniquely difficult? It's about so much more than just having cool tech. It's about solving a real problem in a way that creates tangible business value.
Here's a hard truth every PM has to accept. Most products just don't make it. You can have the most brilliant algorithm, you can be in a super hot market, but you can still completely miss the mark if your product doesn't solve a painful, urgent problem. Your job as an AI PM is to be that bridge, to make sure the intelligent thing you're building is also incredibly valuable and, yeah, profitable.
So to really succeed here, we've got to throw out some of the old playbooks. AI product management demands a pretty fundamental shift in how we even think about value and what success looks like.
Let's look at this new mindset side by side. With traditional software, we were all about features, UI, solving workflow problems, and success was really measured by user adoption. But in the world of AI, the game is totally different. The focus shifts to the prediction value of our models. How well can our AI predict something? That is the product. We're not just solving workflow issues, we're solving complex data and decision problems. So success, it's not just about getting people to use it, it's about creating measurably better outcomes.
So what are we really talking about when we say AI product market fit? Well, it's that magic moment when your solution hits the bullseye. It solves a real, painful problem for a specific group of people. And, this is key, they're more than happy to pay you for it. Sounds simple, right? But getting there is the hard part.
Oh man, this is such a classic trap, and it's so easy to fall into. Look, a great user experience is definitely important, but for an AI product, the real value, the core magic, is all in the power and the accuracy of that underlying model. The most beautiful UX on the planet can't save a weak or irrelevant algorithm. You have to remember, the model is the experience.
So, how do we actually find this fit? We can't just wander around in the dark. We need a compass, a reliable framework that guides our decisions and keeps us heading in the right direction. And here it is. These are the 5 core steps. It all starts with identifying real market problems. Then, you validate your value proposition. You build a super lean MVP to test your assumptions. You iterate like crazy based on real feedback. And finally, you measure and refine your way to that product market fit.
Okay, step 1, problem discovery. And this right here is so important. Real problems, they are not found in some isolated brainstorming session. No, they come from everywhere. They're hiding in your sales calls, and support tickets, in user forums, even in bug reports. You've got to become a detective.
And that means you have to get out of the building. Seriously, go talk to actual users. And don't just ask them what features they want. Ask open-ended questions like, what's the absolute hardest part of your day? And then dig in with, why? Why is that so frustrating? And listen, your sales and support teams, they're on the front lines every single day. They're an absolute goldmine of customer pain points. You have to listen to them.
Now, once you have this whole list of problems, you have to be ruthless. I mean it. Not every problem is worth solving. You need to focus on the ones that check 3 specific boxes. 1, is it widespread? 2, is it urgent? And 3, maybe most importantly, will people actually pay to make this problem disappear? If you don't get a screaming yes to all 3, just move on.
Okay, now you build. But you don't build the whole grand vision. No way. You build the absolute bare bones minimum viable product, the leanest version you can, just to test your core hypotheses. Then, you get it in front of real users and you start that feedback loop. That cycle of build, measure, learn. That's where all the magic happens.
So how do you know if you're actually getting closer? How do you measure something as fuzzy as product market fit? Well, there's a surprisingly simple metric that can give you a really powerful signal, and it all comes down to this one number, 40%. This is called the Sean Ellis test, and it's just brilliant. You ask your active users one simple question. How would you feel if you could no longer use this product? And if at least 40% of them say they would be very disappointed, well, you are on the right track. That means you've built something they actually can't live without, and that is a powerful, powerful signal of product market fit.
All right, so we've got our framework for what to do, but it's just as important knowing what not to do.
Avoiding these common traps can save you years of wasted effort.
First up, the competitor copying trap. It is so easy to see a rival launch a new feature and immediately add it to your own roadmap. But that's a follower's game. You're just assuming they know what they're doing, and it guarantees your product will always be playing catch-up.
Next is the keep 'em busy trap. You know, an idle engineering team can make managers really nervous, and that leads them to rush some half-baked feature into development just to keep everyone typing. That's a direct path to product bloat and a mountain of technical debt. Trust me, that idle time is much better spent on real research and planning.
The one-size-fits-none trap. This is what happens when there's no central product vision. If every engineer is just adding their own pet feature, you don't get a cohesive product. What you get is a confusing junk drawer of features that don't work together and don't solve any single problem really well.
And finally, we have the made-to-measure suit trap. Picture this. You build this incredible custom AI solution for one giant client, perfectly tailored to their needs. The trap is thinking you can now just take that bespoke suit and sell it off the rack to everyone else. It almost never works, because what solves one customer's super niche problem is often totally irrelevant to the broader market.
It really all comes down to discipline. Product bloat doesn't just happen overnight. It creeps in one lazy yes at a time, with every decision made to avoid a tough no. You only really see the complexity in the mess when you're looking back.
So let's pull all this together. What's the core strategic shift? What gives great AI product managers their edge? It's this, right here. It is so much easier to make things that people already want than it is to make people want the things you've made. Always start with a real, unchanging customer problem. The technology we use to solve things, that changes every year. But fundamental human and business needs, they're incredibly stable. If you anchor your entire strategy there, you're building on a foundation of solid rock, not shifting sand.
And that's our deep dive. You know, the real test isn't just watching this and nodding along, it's about actually applying it. So my question for you is this: when you go to work tomorrow, looking at your roadmap, which decision, which feature, which priority will you look at differently through this problem-focused lens?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like.